believe in you, YouTube. I think it is coming live now. So once again, it is available. All the previous chapters are available on youtube.com/@SirArminius. We have read the first quite a bit of the book so far, and we will be continuing along tonight as our heroes continue to try to find exactly where a Bigfoot is. Where is Bigfoot, you ask? Why, I don't know. Whatever shall we do? I do not understand. Where is my Bigfoot? Where can he be? Okay, well, maybe that's a little bit dramatic there of our Bigfoot finding expeditions. But either way, once again, hello. So my name is Sir Arminius. I do indie author live reads, where we get to read some indie author live books. You guys get to experience it right along with me as I read it. And of course, I record all of these chapters so that way we're able to read. You are able to listen to them at your leisure, not my leisure, your leisure. All available on the YouTube channel. Once again, youtube.com/@SirArminius is where I post all of those weekly chats at, so that way you are good to be able to listen to them and hopefully be able to enjoy right along with the rest of us. Ah, yes. youtube.com/@SirArminius. Yes, I reckon that is the case. You will enjoy right along with me. Yes. And as a reminder, because I do read these live, Emma, how are you? Good to see you here with us. Because I do read all of these live and I do record them all, it also means that during the broadcast, I am unfortunately unable to chat with you because, well, I should say during the live chapters, I am unable to chat with you because, well, how the heck would I do that if I'm recording? So instead, what I do is I monitor the chats across the different platforms wherever you happen to be. Tonight we are streaming onto TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Kick, X, Rumble. We are everywhere. And during those chapter breaks, I will be monitoring the chats. I will jump in and say hello to all of you. And if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have concerns, that is your opportunity to say hello. How are you? Have you been all right? Through all these lonely, 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 lonely nights. That's what I'd say. I'd tell you everything if you'd pick up that telephone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that is my place to answer all of the questions for you and get caught up on anything that you may need as we proceed through our broadcast. And so because of that, if you do have anything as you come in, the best place to be able to put your questions is on my YouTube channel. It is the one that I monitor most frequently. Again, youtube.com/@SirArminius to check all of that out. But I will also be monitoring the other ones, so if I do see them come in there, I will be happy to engage as best as I am able between the chapters. So let's talk a little bit about Bigfoot Now by Tim D. Smith. So to start with, if you are interested in finding out more about Tim D. Smith, on your screen you are going to see a QR code. That QR code brings you right to the author's website. Well, what better way to find out about Tim D. Smith than to go to Tim D. Smith? Remember, Tim D. Smith and Tim Maloney, no relation. We just happen to have the first same name. I don't know why there'd be a relation when you have the first same name, but hey, why not? And he has quite a few books out there for your reading pleasure. If you are finding that I am going too slow through the book for you, because we only read for an hour and a half to 2 hours twice a week. And if I'm going too slow for you, hey, go buy the book. Not only that, but you can grab the book and read along with me. What a great way to do it, isn't it? But we have our 4 main people, as well as a 5th who is showing up from various parts of the country, and essentially they are creating a reality TV show. They've had one for a number of seasons now. They got another season kicked off, and they are hunting, well, Bigfoot. Would you have guessed from the name of the thing that Bigfoot would have been what they were looking for? And so we've got Rink. She is one of our members. We've got Billy. He is our leader. We have Robo and Graham. I want to say Graham, but I could be wrong in his name. I'm horrible with names. And then this season, essentially, they are bringing on Harrison. Harrison is an actual Gable, that's his name, Gable. I was scrolling through the book while we were talking. Gable is their 4th member, and they are in Tennessee trying to find Bigfoot. They have found a number of stories of Bigfoot, but they have yet to find the beast itself. Be he beast, or be he man, we do not know. All we know for sure is he is a Bigfoot. So that is where we are going to get started tonight. We're going to be kicking it off with chapter 16 as we jump in here. So wherever you happen to be, sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy as we dive into Bigfoot Found by Tim D. Smith, starting in chapter 16. And remember, feel free to put your questions in there. I am happy to answer, whether they are about the book or about anything else. I will do my best. And now, here we go with chapter 16. I know what you did. Rink rubbed her eyes and looked at the bedside clock, which read 2:30, but couldn't discern whether it was the middle of the night or the middle of the afternoon, which were one and the same on a crazy filming session. That wasn't all that didn't register. Her mother's comment confounded her even more. Mom? Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Rink really didn't. She thought for a moment this might be a dream, and she was still a child and had been discovered in some misdeed, as a list of possible explanations went through her mind in a fleeting streak of pubescent terror and guilt. But then the room began to take shape in the curtained darkness, bringing into focus her whereabouts and the realization that she was in Tennessee on a Bigfoot Found investigation, and an entirely different set of worries, adult problems, took their rightful place. Was she angry because Neil had been tasked with looking out for her mother? Had she committed some sin she had long forgotten that had been somehow dredged up now? Mom, what are you saying? She was sitting up in bed now, the covers falling away, completing a chill that covered her arms and legs. I said, don't act like you don't know. I don't know, Mother. Are you okay? What do you need? I need for you to bring my money back. I know you're buying that farm in Wyoming. I found the papers. And now a worry that was real and worse than any dream took over. There was no farm in Wyoming. There was no money, only hers that she used to care for her mother. There was no deep, dark secret or misdeed. There was only tragedy. Mom, listen to yourself. Have you had a dream? Are you okay? I'll tell my brothers. They'll get you for this. They'll take care of you. Mother, you took my money and thought you'd get away with it. Mom, call Neil. Oh, I will call Neil. He was the best thing that happened to you. He came by yesterday before I found out. Okay, I'll call Neil and have him come over. Settle down. Don't tell me to settle down, you little hussy. I knew something like this would happen some day. Mom, I love you. The phone had gone silent. Rink stepped out of bed, still disoriented, and looked around the room before deciding she had to call Neil. Of course, his phone went to voicemail. She tried the neighbors down the street and got no answer there either. When did she have to meet the team? Her phone alarm hadn't gone off, so she must have been awakened earlier than she planned. But in the moment, she couldn't even remember her time schedule. She went to the mirror and splashed water on her face and finger-combed her short hair. Then she stood and stared at her face, emotionless, blank, empty. How was she supposed to feel? She pulled on her pants, put on her shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed, wondering what to do next. She was thousands of miles away, and her mother was having a serious breakdown of some sort. This was supposed to happen. Why now? Why so soon? Rink hid her face in her hands and cried in the dark, lonely motel room. In the lobby, Billy was about to have his own breakdown, on the phone with Ed. Yes, a night investigation tonight. We have what we think is a picture, taken inadvertently, of a Bigfoot standing behind us, he said. Flo stood beside him, waiting where she had mysteriously appeared, as he sat on a flowered sofa and he looked up at her. Hold on one sec. We have cheesecake, she mouthed. It's on the house. Flo, you're a godsend, he whispered, wishing God had sent the blessing a few minutes later. Thank you. We'll see you in the restaurant. Flo waved and walked regally in the direction of the dining room. Ed, sorry. Billy started and stopped, listening. Yes, we have tons of interviews. The show will be great. Billy watched guests as they walked past. He tried to act nonchalant. This was not going well. We'll see what happens tonight, Billy said. Yes, sir. Our flight is late tomorrow night. Yes. Okay, goodbye. Billy leaned back and took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. What had Ed expected? Exactly what was happening, that was what. If they were ever going to catch a glimpse of Bigfoot, tonight would be a great night for that to happen. They might never get another chance. Flo did have cheesecake, and before any of the other crew members arrived, Billy had 2 slices. The first with a perfectly halved strawberry in its middle, and the second, which must have been more hastily found, with a piece of strawberry dangling on the pointy end. Those followed a massive helping of buffet. The only thing that slowed his feeding was Gable's arrival, surly and with his oily hair in even greater disarray than normal. His coffee could not come soon enough. Robo walked in and looked normal and impossible to gauge. Harrison, next, with his phone to his ear, might have been talking to an agent or a girlfriend, but it was difficult to tell. Then Rink appeared and came straight to Billy, asking to see him in the lobby. What's up? Billy asked. Rink let a couple of octogenarians pass and then began to talk, fast and with as much coherence as she could muster, which wasn't much. My mother thinks I stole her money and I bought a farm in Wyoming, and now my uncles have started calling wanting to know what's going on, and I can't relate to them how far Mom's condition has progressed. Wait, Billy said, putting his hand on Rink's shoulder. Slow down. Everything's going to be fine. They don't know she's developing dementia? No, they don't. They think I'm awful. Let them go visit her. It's probably what she wants anyway. The comment froze Rink, who stood in thought. Do you need to go ahead and fly home? It's okay. Rink looked it to the floor and back to Billy. No, I can go tomorrow. I need to speak with Neil, or someone who can go see her, and I can't get him. Keep trying. If you need to take care of this, what we're doing pales in comparison. When a family member needs you, that's your priority. Rink nodded before taking out her phone to make certain no one had called. No one had. I want to finish up here. I need to finish up here. Okay. You take care of what you need to take care of. If you walk away for a call, it's okay. If you need to do something, do it. I know we don't always have phones on in the field, but this is an exception. Keep it handy. Billy, thank you. I think I needed to tell someone to make sure I'm not crazy or something. You're far from crazy. Go grab something to eat. Flo's cheesecake makes a world of difference in one's outlook. By the time they walked back into the dining room, it was apparent Gable and Robo had been arguing. An iciness hung over the team. Billy said nothing and sipped the remainder of his tea. Are you going to be on the phone during the whole meal and the meeting? Gable asked Harrison, who covered the mouthpiece before he replied. Some of us have work between now and the next shoot. Some of us have the courtesy not to talk on the phone at the table. I'm not bothering you, Harrison spat. Getting set up for Flamethrower 2, the revenge of the machete-wielding maniac. Very funny guy, Harrison said as he stood and walked away. If Billy wasn't fed up, he was very close. Okay, Gable, you're on a solo investigation tonight. Above the falls. I checked the weather and it might rain again, so take the necessary equipment. The rest of us will be on Stars Mountain. When we return, we have a few hours to nap and do a late checkout. Then we'll drive to McGee Tyson and fly out. Any questions? No one had any, and the team began to file out as Harrison returned to finish his meal. Billy, I'm sorry, Harrison said. No worries. It happens. No, really. I'm sorry. I'm not working on something else. I'm clearing some things to be ready to go again. I need to do a commercial, though, in the meantime, and that's what I was arranging. Harrison, we don't know you would be part of the team. It took us by surprise. We sort of needed time to adjust our thinking, and get our head around things. And when we get on a shoot, everything's already so busy the least disruption is magnified. Several of us have spent most of our lives looking for Bigfoot. We don't question its existence. We're looking for proof so that others know it to be true as well. I know it's true. I've seen a Bigfoot. This is beyond important to me. Harrison, who had alternated looking at Billy and looking away, now locked eyes. Billy, I thought this was some kind of joke. I've said things I probably shouldn't have. But I've come to realize something. People have seen something. I'm not sure what it is. I need to know what that is now. I'm not as certain as I was. I think Bigfoot may exist. I'm glad you've come around. Just be wary around Gable. He loves to argue and, well, for lack of a better term, Fight. He's adversarial. Maybe because he was a lawyer. He's not always a bad guy. I've seen him in a better mood than he has been this week. That could be my fault, Harrison offered. It's not your fault you're trying to make a living. You're an actor. You look for work. That's nothing to be ashamed or sorry for. Thank you, Billy. From the bottom of my heart. I won't try to make a farce of this. Ever. They had work to do. They needed to find evidence of Bigfoot. Tonight, they would need to make headlines. Ah, yes. Cable. I don't know why he is so adversarial. But, that is, you always need a good adversary on the team, someone who just does not get along with everyone. And then, of course, you've got Harrison, who joined the team and really is just, he's an actor. He's not an actor, but he plays one on TV. Sure, that's the story, right? Glad to have you all here with me tonight. As we continue to read through Bigfoot Found by Tim D. Smith. All right, let's go see. Any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? None that I see. Alrighty. All right, I see no questions. Remember, everyone, you are welcome to ask questions. I am happy to answer them for you in between chapters. And feel free to ask any questions that pertain to the book or pertain to me. Mr. Torrin McCrath. Hello. Glad to have you here with us tonight. As once again we read through Bigfoot Found by Tim D. Smith. And now let's go ahead and jump right back in with Chapter 17. Petra's drone flew above the Tellico River, high enough to capture the image of Gable waving goodbye, carrying his backpack as he strode toward the trail that wound to the top of Bald River Falls, on his way out for his solo night investigation. She panned back and captured the magnificence of the 90-foot waterfall and the roaring river's slamming boulders, smoothed and chiseled long before Native Americans fished and hunted the mountains. Gable turned at the switchback on the trek to the top and met two bearded hikers, outfitted as such, on the way down, before climbing a set of stairs along the top of the falls. He passed the area where the young Martin Johnson and his father ate picnic lunches on a cement table that was long gone, and then he followed the trail away from the shimmering pool of water above the sheer drop of the falls. It was near that point he saw a small tent sitting away from the trail, partially under an overhanging boulder, and beside it a young woman in a halter top with her elbows resting on her knees and her fingers placed in the mudra of discussion, deep in meditation, sitting erect with closed eyes. Gable did not disturb her and continued his hike, further up the creek which, along with the trail, grew more and more narrow, as he stepped over fern leaves and fallen trees. At that point he met a young couple, possibly teenagers, in shorts and short sleeves who looked to be headed back to the falls after hiking into the quiet and more solitary forest. They nodded to each other. Soon Gable disappeared into the mountains, civilization vanishing behind him. Billy and the remainder of the team drove several miles toward Etowah to a trailhead that would become a path onto Star Mountain, one of the higher knobs that popped up all over the foothills of the Cherokee National Forest. Everyone had snacks, but Robo was the most prepared, carrying not only meal bars but all sorts of chips. He was a Pied Piper of sorts, dropping them as he walked because he believed Bigfoot might like them and follow along, but more times than not realizing he was the only one who really liked them, so he consumed at least every other one. Billy liked venturing out during the daylight, a time when the vast majority of Bigfoot sightings occurred. That might have been for several reasons. More people hike when they can see where they're walking and when they don't worry about stepping on a snake, which is a definite possibility in the mountains. Furthermore, people can see not only snakes but other sights. Unlike the popular notion that Bigfoot has great nighttime vision, people don't. Hence, humans can spot things more readily in the daylight. In the daylight, vantage points matter too. But at night, Billy thought that Bigfoot might become bolder since they were less visible. Some believe that Bigfoot might even be more aggressive at night. Whether that was more of a hunting instinct or an attempt at intimidating creatures to avoid areas the Bigfoot needed to guard or use for hunting was still unknown, and nothing more than conjecture at this point. One thing was certain. The night filmings were a big hit with television audiences. People liked to see what they couldn't naturally see, things hiding under the cover of darkness. They enjoyed a certain level of fright and uncertainty. Billy had always been a relentless hiker and could cover considerable distances, albeit in stops and starts and hesitancies and waiting and listening. Sometimes when Robo grew tired, he made up excuses. Look at this. What is this? Or did you hear? Other times he admitted he needed to rest. But tonight, Billy was the first to stop. And even though he said, let's listen, it seemed as though he needed time to think, to sort out the day, to consider what they might do. Even Petra gave up on filming for a while, and then, possibly afraid she might miss something, reconsidered and began again. Without comment, Billy stood, took a tremendous breath like he was about to free dive in a deep, clear inlet pool filled with exotic fish and coral, and let out a long, loud howl that seemed to emanate from somewhere in his soul. The team waited. Nothing. After a while, they began walking once more, following a GPS trail now because the original trail was almost obscured and virtually invisible. That was when they heard the first knock, from somewhere far away it seemed, echoing through the trees. Billy held up his hand and cocked his head to the side. After about 30 seconds, and with a movement of Billy's encouraging hand, Robo used his walking stick and rapped twice on a tree. The team waited in silence. Minutes passed, and when they were almost ready to move again, another knock sounded. Robo knocked once in reply, this time with all his force, almost worried his walking stick might not withstand the pressure. But this time, after waiting for several more minutes, no return knock came. They walked again, night vision on, stealthy as they could manage, even though the detection of their presence was an almost certainty.
Boss,
Robo whispered.
stop. I think I see something.
Robo took Billy's sleeve and pointed him in the direction of a steep hillside, down into what most surely would become a valley surrounded by thick, tall pines and elms. He held Billy there, now with Rink coming to their side.
Moving,
Robo said.
I see it.
I don't see it, Robes.
Just watch. Fast and then behind trees and growth. Maybe not a run, but moving fast. Hiding.
They waited. After more than a minute, Rink spoke. To the left. I saw something move. I saw something. Walking? Billy asked. Well, no. Like Robo said. Moving fast, though. Finally, Billy saw it too. Petra maneuvered to their right and then behind, finally going low, all the while trying to film the group as well as capture the image of the moving being in the distance.
Do bears walk upright?
Harrison asked. They stand to climb trees or reach up into trees, Billy replied. But they don't walk on their hind legs, unless they're in a sideshow or something.
Well, whatever is down there walks upright. I saw it.
Where? Billy asked.
Probably further down. It's out from where you guys were pointing.
Come on, moving away, Billy said. He was already in motion, on the trail but cutting corners now, moving as fast as he could, trying to keep pace. Something was down there, and he was intent on discovering what it was. After several moments of fast movement and when the trees thinned, Billy stopped once more. The team scanned the forest, and when they saw nothing, they moved again, as fast as they could without an all-out sprint, before stopping again. When they had waited as long as they could manage, it was Rink's turn to be the first to spy. Moving again. I swear I saw something. This time right to left. Billy must have seen it and without warning bolted in the direction of his sight. The team followed. Robo's breathing came in loud rasps now as he struggled to keep up. Harrison passed Rink and followed closer to Billy. For almost an hour they pursued. Twice more the image swam into view, a heat sensor showing an elevated area once, but so far away it would surely be faded by the time they reached the area. Nearing 4 a.m., they lost all contact with whatever they were chasing. They were almost 5 miles away from their vehicles by now, and despite their encouragement over the encounter, their deflated optimism was evident. The exertion had taken a toll, and their adrenaline was spent. They would be forced to return. All that remained was an examination of the film. That, and whatever Gable had discovered. What do you guys think? Is it a Bigfoot that they were chasing? Was it Gable? Was it another person? Was it whatever? Who knows? I guess. We'll have to stick around and find out, won't we? Yes. Let us find what we can find. Any comments, any questions, any thoughts from the peanut gallery? Congratulations, everyone. You are the peanut gallery. We like you. We appreciate your being here with us. Nope. All right, no questions. Let us just dive right back in then. Let me take a quick drink. And we're going to jump right back in to Chapter 18. I'm just saying, it might have been a person. Rink, leaning back on the van with her arms crossed, was the only one not eating a biscuit. Gable's phone had been going directly to voicemail, and since the team was unsure of his whereabouts, they had stopped at the Cotton Pickin' Diner for a quick breakfast to go. It was possible he was waiting for them at the base of the falls, but he often emerged from his solo investigations late. Waiting for him at the falls or being assured of breakfast made the decision to stop a no-brainer. Their nap time was evaporating, but eating was the next highest item on their list. I'm finding it difficult to believe someone, other than us, was out walking in the forest 5 miles from civilization in the middle of the night, Billy said. I'll admit, the footage seems to show a figure walking upright. Maybe. It's hard to tell from what we got. Whoever, or whatever it was faster than us, that's for certain. Petra never took time out to rest. She was filming.
Petra, here, I got an extra,
Robo said as he offered her a wrapped biscuit. I'm good. Thank you, though.
I got extra jelly.
I had a snack. Robo sat the biscuit beside his coffee. He wouldn't let it waste.
That's why I'm having trouble losing weight. Walk all night and still gain weight. Makes sense.
Harrison was sipping coffee as he leaned beside Rink. I'm with Billy. I think we got some evidence. I'd be willing to go another night. Our flight is this afternoon, Billy said. No extra time was built into the budget. After finishing his biscuit, he continued. The signal is awful in the mountains. It's quite possible Gable's phone can't get a signal. Let's head that way. They loaded the van and followed the curving road beside the Tellico River as the slanting shade and the early morning sunlight played on and off their tired faces as if they were watching an ancient movie They met cars coming from the other direction as if all the drivers had been in the mountains since before daybreak. Soon they realized why. At the turn to Indian Boundary, a Y-shaped juncture going left where the river road bent right, two police vehicles sat with blue lights flashing as two officers waved for them to go in the opposite direction. The car in front of them did a U-turn and passed before the van arrived. An officer leaned at the window when Billy rolled it down.
"The road's closed," the officer said. "You'll have to turn around."
When will it open?" Billy asked.
"Couldn't say."
"A member of our team is up the road. He did a solo night investigation, and we need to pick him up. We've got a flight out."
"I'm sorry. Can't just doing my job. I can't let anyone go down this road."
"Is there any other way? Can we get in from the other side?" Billy asked.
"I suppose you could go to North Carolina and come in the back way," the officer said. "Might be a couple 100 miles. They probably got the other side closed as well."
"We've got a flight out. I don't think he wants to stay here while we fly home."
"I'm sorry, really," the officer said, studying the cars lined up behind the van. "Got to turn on around, though." As the officer stood up and backed away, motioning for them to turn, Billy continued.
"Why is it closed?"
The officer began and reconsidered. "I think they found someone deceased." Billy's heart rate doubled. The rest of the crew leaned forward.
"I need to know more," Billy said. "It could be our team member. I really need to know."
The officer was decisive then. "It's all I can say. I need for you to turn around and go in the other direction. The road will probably be open sometime later." Further questioning seemed futile, so Billy looked around him and did as he was told. The road seemed especially ominous and dark as they returned to Tellico. "Billy, it's not him. He would have been in the woods," Rink said.
"He's not answering."
"It's the reception. You said so yourself."
"What if he fell in the river? It was dark. He's carrying all of his supplies. He's not exactly nimble. He could have gone over the falls and someone found him this morning."
"Now your imagination is running away with your reasoning," Rink said. Petra had stopped filming, maybe out of respect, maybe because she innately saw no reasonable use for the footage of the conversation, or because the outcome might become morose.
"I've got to call Ed," Billy said. "We're likely not going to make it out in time to catch our flight."
"You can get a signal in town."
Rink, I know your situation. You could go ahead and fly out."
"No. I think I need to see what needs to be done. I'll call Neil."
Did you ever get him?"
"I did. He won't like it, but I really don't care." Billy smiled. It hadn't seemed like he would be able to do so for the remainder of the day. It really didn't matter one way or the other what Ed told him. They weren't going anywhere. They wound up at Tellico Beach. Not really a beach per se, though it did have smooth stones that one might sit in and sun like a lazy snake by the river, and all of them got out to sit at the picnic tables. The snack shack wasn't open, or Robo could have possibly finished breakfast. Billy strode away from the team as he fiddled with his phone and then walked around in circles with it to his ear. He nodded, stood by a tree without speaking, nodded some more, and continued talking. Rink had walked in the other direction and also talked, though more animated than Billy. "Do you think it could be him? Really?" Harrison asked Robo.
"Nah, he's okay. He can't get out, though."
"It's pretty serious if they won't let anyone in," Harrison said.
"Maybe."
Harrison must have remembered he needed to arrange things in order to stay another day, and soon he had walked away as well, leaving Petra, Grant, and Robo at the van. They stood like that for a long while before deciding the ever-warming sun needed to be escaped by sitting under some trees. Word had gotten out, and 2 news trucks passed going in the direction of the falls. Rink and Harrison returned before Billy, who continued his conversation, eventually sitting with his back to a tree and his knees pulled up to his chin. The long night seized Grant first, his buzz-cut head resting on an arm as he dozed, sitting on a bench in front of a table in the shade like a bored high school student in math class. Robo's method seemed little better as he sat in the front seat of the van with his head back and his mouth lolling open. He only opened one black-ringed eye when Billy returned.
We have an extra day, Billy said. I'm thinking you guys go back to the motel and rest. I'll make my way up the road to see if I can eventually get in to wait for Gable.
I don't think they'll have cabs, Harrison said. We can all wait.
As Billy began to speak, his phone rang.
It's Gable's number, he said.
As if a jury had returned with a verdict, Billy let it ring once more, almost afraid to answer. Was Gable alive? Billy answered. What do you guys think? Is Gable alive?
Or has Gable
bit the dust? Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one's gone, and another one's gone, and another one bites the dust. Sorry, singing to my dog. The puppy. Meow, meow. She likes to sit on the recliner next to me while I read to you guys. And the other one's on the floor. They take turns on the recliner. All right, let's see if we got any questions, comments, concerns. No. 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 85 questions. No, I'm kidding. No. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. All right, that means we continue on, finding out more about Bigfoot and whether Gable has survived. I guess we'll find out momentarily. As we start into Chapter 19.
Gable?
Hey, it's been quite a morning,
Gable said.
We were worried, Billy told him. Where are you?
They're taking me down to the split if you can pick me up. I'll explain.
Sure thing. On my way,
Billy said, not asking who they were, but assuming it was local authorities who had found him and realized he needed a ride. There was more to it than that, though. Billy disconnected the phone and looked up into all the expectant faces, at least all of them that were still awake.
I need to go pick him up.
That's it? Rink asked. Nothing more? He didn't say anything else?
He said he'd explain.
Rink looked a little disgusted. At least as disgusted as she ever looked, and Billy sort of expected her to be more inquisitive. The team had waited for almost 3 hours now. They probably deserved to know more. The day had grown hot, and customers had begun to arrive for lunch at Tellico Beach. A woman and 6 sad and dirty children, one of them a little boy in shorts, boots, and a cowboy hat, milled around as the tyke shot an imaginary gun at Billy during his wait for what turned out to be a corn dog. A little girl with teased brown hair like someone in one of those electricity exhibits had a ring around her mouth that looked like yesterday's fudge-sickle. Her little brother had his shoes on the wrong feet. At least they were going to be fed corn dogs. A couple on matching motorcycles recognized them, and Billy tried his best to be amiable. Robo was forced to entertain 2 little old ladies who were obviously smitten. The parade of characters seemed never-ending. Billy nixed the notion of their usual reunion, saying he needed to talk with Gable, and drove alone up the road once more as insects splattered the windshield and the sun stung his eyes. Certain he looked like death, his head spinning from the news, wondering what Gable would tell him, and alternately wanting to know and not wanting to know what had happened. The whole scene left a sour taste in his mouth. Upon Billy's arrival, Gable came to the van, opened the door, and climbed inside. Let's get out of here, he said with a heavy sigh, as if he had hoisted himself from a churning sea into a life raft. Billy pulled away toward town before he spoke.
So, what happened?
I walked back to the falls and saw a girl lying beside her tent. She was dead.
The comment caused Billy to turn his full attention on Gable, who sat peering stony-faced ahead.
Dead? How could you tell?
Blood. All over. It was obvious.
Gable shook his head as if to clear the vision from his mind. He closed his eyes and leaned his head back before continuing.
I had to call someone and couldn't get a signal. I walked down to the road and still couldn't. I finally saw some people and asked them to call the police, and they couldn't get a signal either. We finally saw a ranger and he radioed someone. It took forever for them to get a unit onto the scene, and I had to tell them. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation was called, and detectives from Monroe County. Everyone and their brother showed up. I made a statement, and they took my gear, all the equipment.
All your footage? I guess they're covering their bases and eliminating you from the suspect list.
I guess.
Did you get anything on camera last night?
Nothing. I didn't see or hear anything.
Wow, Billy said. I'm sorry this happened. I really am.
Just a bad situation, Gable said. I'm afraid we might miss our flight.
We've got an extra day. We'll get some rest. I can't even think of where we'd film with the extra day. I think I'm through with it here. We did see something, but we don't have any idea what it was, really.
I can't think about anything right now, Gable said. I just want to close my eyes and make it go away.
They rode that way for a while, quiet and still, before Gable opened his eyes once more.
You don't think it could be the Bigfoot, do you?
What do you mean?
I mean, could a Bigfoot have done something like that?
Gable, I don't mean to dredge up the site again, but was she, in bad shape? Was she...
Billy didn't know how to ask what was on his mind. How had Gable known she was dead? He wondered to himself if the victim had been dismembered.
It was a big rock. I saw it. A blunt force trauma. She never knew what hit her.
Could it have possibly fallen on her? They have nets along the road where slides happen. Maybe it came down an embankment.
Nothing really to fall on her. She was set up for camp in a spot underneath a big overhang. It looks level on top, no loose rocks. I saw her doing some kind of meditation last night as I walked by. She was sitting outside the tent, sort of in the place I saw her this morning.
Could it have been suicide?
No, that's not possible. Not from what I saw.
The specter of the gruesome scene swam in Billy's imagination, and a wave of nausea settled over him. He rolled down the window and then sprayed the windshield to wash away the bugs again, trying to disassociate the macabre connection. Billy found a parking spot across the road from the Tellico Beach, which was now packed with people standing in two lines waiting to order food. Many of the ones that weren't waiting had managed to strike up conversations with the team. Only Harrison seemed to be enjoying himself, giving autographs and enjoying his celebrity. The team gathered Gable's belongings and his gear, loaded it into the van, and he reluctantly broke free to join them to journey back to Sweetwater. Gable had not moved from the front seat, where he sat with his eyes closed and his head leaned back. As if a psychic message had been sent, no one asked Gable any questions. The van was like a tomb. Gone were the puns and quips and levity. Gone was the optimism. Their questions were many,
but those would have to wait for weariness to pass. As they approached Highway 68, Billy's phone indicated that the night's event and this never-ending story had not concluded. Without a Bluetooth connection, the ever-responsible Billy pulled to the shoulder of the road to answer. It was Sheriff Tinker.
Hey, Sheriff, it's Billy,
he answered, and sat listening, his eyes looking into nowhere, processing the conversation.
Yes, sir, we were on Star Mountain.
He waited again.
We've literally been up all night, but you're welcome to look through our footage.
Waiting.
Yes, we filmed virtually the entire time, starting from the trailhead.
And then there was a long pause as if the conversation was detailed, when in fact Billy was holding. His countenance visibly changed when Tinker began speaking again.
Sure thing. We're here an extra day. Say 5-ish? Okay, we'll see you then.
He disconnected and turned to the back, where everyone stared in return.
We need to go to Tinker's office this evening. He wants to ask us some questions,
Billy said. No discussion ensued, no questions, just fatigue. They drove to the motel in silence. Well, let's be honest. You've got people that are out and filming in the area where somebody was killed. Yeah, you're probably going to want to ask them questions. I would expect nothing less. Nothing less, nothing more. And what would you do for a Klondike bar? Mr. Torrin McGrath from Telefrog fame. Got to get the barns all shut up for the night. Keep up your marvelous craft, sir. Thank you, my friend, thank you. Telefrog, another book that I've read here live on stream. You can find it on the YouTube channel. Go check it out. He's working on, I want to say, book 4 right now? Could be book 3. He's working on one more book in the series, but book 2 is out and available for your listening pleasure, or watching pleasure, or reading pleasure, I should say. For your pleasure, one way or the other. All right, let's get back to it, shall we? I see no questions, which means we continue on with Chapter 20. Vehicles, some marked with blue lights and official seals, but most of them personal cars and trucks, sat interspersed throughout the parking lot at the Justice Center. But when the team entered, the small lobby was deserted. An older woman in a sort of official-looking outfit sat behind a thick glass partition that looked as though it might be bulletproof, and a computer as she typed and alternately looked down to a paper to her right and then back at the screen with little interruption. She didn't respond immediately, even when Billy cleared his throat. But when she reached an acceptable stopping point, she looked up without smiling, as if she was surprised to see anyone there.
"Can I help you?" she asked. "We're here to see Sheriff Tinker," Billy said. "I think he's expecting us."
"I'll let him know you're here. What's your name?"
Billy Mason."
Billy turned around and motioned to some thinly padded chairs sitting around the edge of the small room. Each of them sat except for Gable, who stood alone, studying his fingernails. Petra held the film drives, labeled with dates and locations. Before this morning, every conversation turned back to Bigfoot. The reason they had come to Tennessee. The reason they were on this crew. The meaning in most of their lives. Tinker opened the door and stood facing them. He no longer wore a smile, nor was he friendly. "I'm glad y'all made it. Billy, do you have the footage?"
"I do,"
Billy said, going to Petra and taking the drives before turning around and handing them to the sheriff. "We're gonna look through these for a minute. Mr. Roderick, can I speak with you first?" Robo, who almost didn't recognize being addressed by his last name, stood and walked through the door behind Tinker as it shut with finality behind him. Apparently, the question would be done one by one. The team members looked to one another in silence before Billy finally spoke.
"Nerve-wracking," he said with a nervous laugh. "I'm certain they're just covering all their bases. But this seems a little much. How would we possibly know anything about this?"
Everyone shook their heads, and Rink added a shrug. No one knew how long this could possibly take, but the evening was beginning to look very long. Robo followed the sheriff, who led him to a room, which, upon entering, featured a long table that could seat maybe 8 people but was empty. Those in the room, in suits primarily, stood at intervals along the wall and held notepads. Tape recorders sat in the middle of the table. Robo was pretty sure the interview was being filmed as well, but no cameras were readily visible. The sheriff introduced those in attendance: 2 detectives, a police officer, a representative of the TBI who was a detective, and 2 men in suits from the FBI. They each nodded when introduced.
Mr. Roderick, where were you guys yesterday evening?
We went to Star Mountain, walked around, filmed all night.
Did all of your team members go to Star Mountain?
All but Gable. We do a solo investigation on pretty much every show.
How does that work exactly?
Tinker asked.
The solo?
Yes, the solo.
Well, one person wears a head cam, usually a night vision of some sort that films them walking. You can turn it around and film ahead. I think people like the face shot. You know, according to Poland and stuff. Don't know why.
You stay all night?
Yes, sir. It's sort of the thing on the solo.
Film all night?
No, I think the batteries would run out. When I've done it in the past, I just turn off the camera in the tent and sleep.
The TBI guy looked up from his note-taking and nodded.
Okay, good deal, Tinker said. Let me show you out.
Robo followed him to the door and entered the lobby.
Mr. Mason, would you come with me?
Tinker asked. Billy stood and walked behind him to the same room and saw the same men arranged around the wall. He was directed to a seat as the men were introduced. He gave the same information about the solo investigation and described the team's mission, only in more loquacious terms than Robo. After several minutes of questioning, the door opened and a thin young man holding what looked like the team's drive stepped inside a bit to motion for the sheriff, who excused himself and stepped outside. Billy glanced around the room, but none of the men changed expressions nor spoke to him. Tinker re-entered and placed the drives in front of Billy.
Thank you for letting us look at these, he said.
Billy nodded and suspected he wore a somewhat dumb grin. He had seen himself on camera and never found it appropriate or becoming, and even though he recognized it, he couldn't seem to change it. His suspicions were correct this time also.
Can you tell us about each team member?
Tinker asked. Billy did so, beginning with Rink and going through Robo, Harrison, and Gable.
How long have you known Mr. Marks?
The sheriff asked.
We've been doing the show about 5 years, and that's when I met him. Do you associate with him socially?
Not really. We talk on the phone quite a bit. We have shared interests, Bigfoot mainly, and we each have big roles in the show.
How would you describe his personality?
He has a sharp tongue when he thinks someone's out of line. He's pretty single-minded. He usually thinks of Bigfoot in almost every conversation. We get along pretty well. He's sort of tough to work with. I guess because he only thinks of Bigfoot. He sort of knows everything and lets everyone else know it.
Have you ever had a blow-up on the set or anything?
He stays cool, but he rubs people the wrong way sometimes, Billy said.
Does he carry a weapon or anything?
Tinker asked as he looked down to his notes and wrote something as if it was just a question out of the blue, but it struck Billy immediately and his pulse climbed. What had happened? Why would he be asking that question? Billy knew he had to relate to the previous evening's discussion. So he did. All of it. He was pretty sure Gable had not taken the pistol with him on the night investigation. Tinker finally smiled at Billy.
Good. He told us the same thing. He didn't have the pistol with him last night.
The rest of the investigators still said nothing and stood in almost the same positions as they had upon his entry, and were beyond strange in Billy's point of view.
Why were they present if they didn't plan on asking questions?
Anything else, gentlemen?
Tinker asked the room. Everyone shook their heads. Billy started to stand until Tinker continued.
Listen, I think you're a Bigfoot expert. Can I ask you something?
Of course.
Have you ever heard of a Bigfoot? If they are real, and let's assume for the sake of argument they are, have you ever heard of one becoming violent? Could they be dangerous, in your opinion?
Tinker asked. I would imagine they could be potentially dangerous. They're huge. They're shy, though, reclusive. We have many reports of them throwing stones at people, at tents. That was my first experience with a Bigfoot when I was a teenager. The reports I'm familiar with, if people don't flee, the Bigfoot does. As far as I know, there hasn't been a single report of a violent encounter with a Bigfoot. At least, no one's lived to speak of it.
Have you heard of reports of mysterious deaths that could have been attributed to a Bigfoot?
In the ancient past, native people believed the creature snatched and ate children and hunters. I don't think any of those could be proven credible. Another report, it might have been out of Virginia, recounts a tremendous log being thrown at Bigfoot hunters. Maybe the Bigfoot was defending itself.
Mr. Mason, you've been very helpful. I'm sorry we had to have you guys come in and speak with us. I know it's been a long day.
Really, no problem. We want to help any way we can, Billy said. Can you tell me exactly what happened?
Tinker looked to the suits, who shook their heads ever so slightly.
I'm sure it will come out in the papers and whatnot, Tinker told him. That's all I can say.
Tinker showed him to the door and said he didn't need anything further right now, making certain he had all their contact numbers. And that was that. Nothing that a big dinner in Flo's restaurant might not settle. That and a good night's rest. They would fly home tomorrow. Actually, Robo would drive and prepare for their next investigation. At least, that's what they thought.
Uh-oh. Are they trying to say that Gable may have had something to do with this? I don't think it's right. But you never know exactly what to expect from someone. They could be good, they could be bad. But all I know for sure is I've somehow gone into an English accent, which does not fit Tennessee at all. I try to get myself back to the right type of an accent. You gotta love live reading. Oh, yeah. All right, don't see any questions out there, so sip of my drink, and then we will continue on. Or a finish of my drink, one way or the other. All right, everyone, let us continue. We've got at least 25 more minutes. And so we continue on with Chapter 21. Billy and Rink were the last to leave the table at dinner, exhausted mentally and needing sleep, but not yet tired. It was as if something pricked at them, something they could not see nor put into words. It had been dark for some time, and the restaurant staff and Flo had long since gone, leaving instructions to put their drinks in the sink when they left. Stay as long as you like. Our place is your home. We're so glad you're here. With no hiking in their legs tonight, they decided to walk around the motel for a while. Nothing else could be done. It's a nice night tonight, Billy said, and it was, cooler than it had been with a light breeze blowing the stars around. Yes, Rink said. She didn't offer more, and nothing more was expected. They walked that way for a few minutes, around the parking lot, pausing to look down at I-75 below them before continuing. I really need to tell someone something, Billy said,
and seeing Rink look to him without replying, he took the cue to continue. Gable had a pistol the other night.
What?
Billy nodded. I told him he couldn't take it.
Why would he think he needed a pistol?
Rink asked. Looking back on it, I'm thinking it might not have been a bad idea. He said, for protection.
I don't think a Bigfoot committed that murder, Rink said, for in her mind, if Bigfoot did not exist, the search for a killer was simple. Occam's razor indicated some person in the forest last night killed that girl.
Maybe not. That might be why he should have had the gun. This world is crazy. It seems like more now than ever.
So somebody used a big rock, as she slept, no less. That could have been Gable, and the gun wouldn't have saved him.
True, but maybe he would have awakened. Bad either way.
They walked on, thinking, breathing in and out, time passing toward resolution, understanding, and clarity. But Billy needed to get more off his chest, put ideas into the open air to hear them spoken and sounded.
The sheriff asked me about it.
About the gun?
Yeah. He wanted to know if Gable carried a gun. I can't tell you everything that went through my mind. It wasn't good. I told them everything.
Good. You had to. They sat then at the overlook where far below, in a vein or artery of pavement, souls with missions or dreams were compelled to destinies in the darkness. But a vibrating phone is a lethal talisman for enchantment.
Ed, you're calling late. Then again, I guess it's not too late out there.
Billy put the call on speaker and then put his finger to his lips as he let Rink listen. There's been quite a hubbub about the murder, Ed's voice said, a metallic sentinel from all the way across the country. It's all over Twitter. A group is gathered near you, in Madisonville. They think Bigfoot is the killer. Billy turned to look at Rink, her rapt attention focused on the conversation that seemed to float on the electric air. Billy, it's an entirely different angle. It's danger. Bigfoot is not some benign creature that shirks from confrontations and flees all human interactions. Don't you see?
I think I see, Billy said. So, what should we do?
You need to stay a couple more days. See what happens with this situation.
Let me make sure I've got this straight. The Bigfoot might be a killer, so you want us to put our lives at risk and look for him. Put ourselves in danger.
Not exactly. You make it sound so sinister.
Is it sinister?
No, it's interest. This is a real chance to put Bigfoot on the map. The show will soar. Billy stared at Rink, both waiting before Ed finally continued. I'll take care of the flight in the morning. You don't have to. I'll book new flights home when it's time. Keep filming. See where this goes. Go on more investigations. Do you have areas you'd like to explore?
Of course. There's always places we've omitted because of time and space and money.
I'm giving you the green light. Almost as if the bartering weight of the negotiation had shifted, neither of the men spoke, so much so that it was almost as if Billy had no words. Okay. Sound like a plan? Can you make it work? Ed asked. Rink nodded slowly, dumbfounded herself. We can. I'll call in the morning, Ed said. Bye-bye. What a turn of events had transpired. Never in a million years would Billy have foreseen this twist in the saga.
Can you stay? Billy asked. Do you need to get back? I understand if you do.
I'll make it work. I need to. Rink's outlook and expectations had changed. Something bigger than themselves was at work. But whether answers and understanding would reveal themselves as solutions or as a deadly avalanche ready to swallow them
remained to be seen. Ah, they get to stay. Yes, it will be good for Billy and the team to remain. More Bigfoot investigations are forthcoming. Yes, yes, Billy. Oh, Billy, that is what it will be. All right, let's just dive right back in. As we're getting close to the end here, we'll dive right back in with Chapter 22. With Flo's hesitant blessings, Billy organized the team to convene in the meeting room, which smelled of antiseptic and tobacco smoke, since the room was actually a smallish dance floor with a DJ stand at one end and a large table placed in the middle by staff who were leaving upon the group's arrival. The cleaning crew had done their best, but one couldn't reasonably expect to vanquish the aromas of alcohol and smoke in one morning scrub. A small mini breakfast bar had been arranged at one end beside a dartboard.
"We're in the paper,"
Billy told Robo as he led Rink and Harrison into the room. The front page headline of the Monroe County Advocate read, "Murder at the Falls," with the subheading, "Is Bigfoot the Culprit?"
"Discovered by Gable Marks of the Bigfoot Found Crew. Mrs. Caroline Waslander of Mount Marble, Oregon, was found slain near her tent, situated near Bald River Falls."
"Can I see it?" Rink asked, and Billy folded and tossed the paper across the table. Petra and Grant arrived and looked over Rink's shoulder at the paper, while Harrison began to eat, possibly listening, but maybe not.
"When Gable gets here, we'll get started. I have more news."
"He's in the lobby," Petra said without looking away from the paper.
"Lobby?"
"Talking with the news crew," Petra added, finally meeting Billy's gaze, and before she could even look back down at the article, Billy was on the move. Sure enough, Gable had a camera in his face and was answering a question while a camera operator filmed. "In 1924, gold prospectors in Oregon encountered several Bigfoots who pursued them, tore off the roof of their cabin, and heaved boulders, hitting one of the men and rendering him unconscious for 2 hours. It seems to me that Bigfoot could become violent under the right circumstances." Billy stood to the side, arms folded, with a look of disgust.
"Mr. Marks,"
the reporter asked,
"if a Bigfoot did this, is anyone safe?"
"The chances that a Bigfoot did this are very remote. It would be completely out of character. This could be an extreme case of territorial violence. Or, if the Bigfoot had some physical change, like a brain tumor or something, that might be an explanation. Something like that might change the personality of a Bigfoot." Billy's expression spoke to Gable. "Could you excuse me?" Gable said. "I have a team meeting to attend." As they walked away and over his shoulder, Billy muttered,
"A Bigfoot with a brain tumor?"
"It could be an explanation. It's a possibility." Now alone in the hall, standing on a brush rug that Flo had bought where God only knew, the Muzak version of "With a Little Luck" bathing them from above, Billy spun around to face Gable.
"Do you believe what you told them?"
"I don't understand."
"That it could be a Bigfoot."
Gable didn't look away, but the skip in the response said he was considering his answer. "Anything is possible," Gable said. "It might not hurt ratings either." Billy couldn't bring himself to respond at first, but as he turned and opened the door for the other investigator, he replied,
"Maybe I have a brain tumor right now."
Gable didn't seem to be affected by the comment and strolled ahead into the room.
"Gang, we have news,"
Billy announced, putting on a happy face but still letting out an audible breath of what might have been relief, but more than likely exasperation.
"Ed wants us to stay. I'm thinking we're reporting on the events that have transpired. We have been instructed to get interviews and document on film as much of this as we can. Harrison, you finally have your chance to mingle with the locals."
"Hooray for me," Harrison deadpanned. Petra had her camera and only a bare-bones assortment of basic equipment, allowing the entire team to fit into one large van. No roadblock hindered them on their winding trek beside the river, under the canopy of trees and overhanging boulders that seemed to defy gravity, much like the one that had been perched above the doomed yoga girl, Carolyn. But here, it was as if nothing had happened, certainly nothing as grisly as the terrible murder. Tourists still wandered around on the bridge taking selfies in front of the cascading waterfall, while other folks meandered to the top. It didn't appear as if any of them were aware or worried that a heinous act had taken place less than 50 yards away. "I don't want to go back to the top," Gable said.
"Totally understand," Billy told him.
He tried to gauge the reactions of his crew as they meandered around the falls. Petra wasn't even filming now, but rather was looking to him. The morning and the drive to the falls had grown long. The sense of excitement about the beautiful scenery had vanished.
"Let's find somewhere to have lunch and see what we might learn."
That somewhere turned out to be the Ironworks Grill and Pub, which lounged beside the Tellico River's whitecaps and nestled snug as a bug in a rug between soft mountains. A rustic, wooden, open-air, wrap-around porch overlooked the natural scenery. Billy sat outside, beneath the gaggle of patrons, the laughter and conversation and tinkling of silverware dripping over him like rain showers, but unable to wash away his lowering mood. Everyone else could eat. He needed to think. What had become of the investigation? Was it nothing more than a sideshow? Freaks and human skeletons for patrons to test their mettle? Enduring a gaze and unable to look away, yet repulsed as they watched? His faith waned. Doubt peeked into his tent. Billy wanted to crawl away. Inside, business was brisk. "I'll just take a coffee," Gable told a waitress with straight black hair pulled back behind her ears and a slim build molded from walking 50 feet back and forth all day long to the kitchen and between tables. She froze as if someone spoke to her. "You guys are from the Bigfoot team?" Gable nodded and tried to look away. "No, really, I love the show," she continued, and when Gable continued to ignore her comments, she finally wandered away toward the kitchen, maybe losing interest or confirming her thoughts about her least favorite character. It didn't matter one way or the other. Gable had difficulty enjoying being anywhere, and here was no different. He didn't enjoy smells, even the aroma in the room that was probably pleasing to most. The air held the fragrance of smoked beef and pork, which overlaid a yeasty smell of baking bread and a sweeter crust of apple pie. Somewhere cologne blended with the scent of cedar. Voices rose and fell in conversation, the unpleasant jangling birds arguing over scraps, and chairs scraped along the hard floor. Gable had honed a skill, usually able to ascertain where people lived. He had always had a knack of judging certain things about people. That was a fact. Even if that something was derision at his obstinate behavior. He could ignore that. All the other information people admitted he stored away to use. The talent had served him well, and it was that ability that gave him clues now amid his aggravation. The serving staff, full of stock characters, had gathered in an excited huddle, and their furtive glances landed on Gable and the rest of the team. Some expectant clue hung in the air. He heard enough to encourage him to summon the team and Billy to leave. Something big was up in Madisonville. "People are gathering at the courthouse," he yelled to Billy. The team followed him toward the van. "We need to go." Billy looked bewildered, as if waking from a nap in falling darkness and not knowing what time it was. Somewhere, from the hidden recesses of his mind, the voice of his father swam to the surface, saying, "It's not all about you." They scrambled to the van, but they weren't the only ones going toward town. A line of National Guard helicopters appeared over the mountains, beating a deep thud, thud, thud as they clambered toward Madisonville. The team paused and watched them stream overhead.
This is about to get serious,
Billy said. Okay, what's going on at the courthouse? Why is everything going insane? I guess we have to continue and find out, don't we? That's right, I believe we do. Oh, yeah. Just a reminder before I start into the next chapter, if you are interested in learning more about the author, Tim D. Smith, the QR codes that you see on your screen will take you right to his website so you can check out all about Tim D. Smith. And if you have not already done so, I'd appreciate if you'd stop by the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. Hit that free subscribe button. It helps to support me in what I do here. And not only that, but if you've missed any of the reading, all of the chapters will be up on the YouTube channel. All the ones from tonight will be up a little bit later this evening. All the ones from the previous days are already up there. We will continue to post chapter by chapter as I read them that evening. They will get posted up, so it's a great place to catch up on it. Now, this one may be the last chapter, but let's see as we jump ourselves into Chapter 23. If ever there was a nice day for mayhem, this would have been it. And even though it was quite hot, not one cloud dotted the sky. From the high point of the hills entering Sweetwater, visibility reached 50 miles despite the humidity. "This is sort of crazy," Harrison said from the back seat to no one in particular. "We don't even know where we're going." The team had coasted to a stop at a red light directing traffic on Highway 68 and Highway 11. At the moment, 3 pickup trucks, each bed loaded with bearded men in camo, appeared and cruised through the light heading north. Billy turned to his team in the back of the van.
Why don't we follow them?
He said, grinning. The plan was good, and they followed north on 11 until they found themselves in the parking lot that surrounded the courthouse in Madisonville. The crowd was disjointed. Men with rifles milled around and spoke to one another and conversed before comparing guns and supplies. Several other pickups arrived, and from nowhere the gathering seemed to grow, a concocted petri dish of backwoods humanity. The entirety of the group appeared to be making ready for a camping trip. Tents were strewn around the parking lot and along the streets surrounding the courthouse. Food and supply tents were arranged for 2 blocks. Petra filmed. No one involved with the Bigfoot team wanted to ask questions and instead watched and waited for something to happen. They wouldn't be disappointed. A caravan of Monroe County deputies turned the corner in their cruisers, with the sheriff's car in the lead. He slowed, making a dramatic entrance, to stop at his parking spot, in front of a sign that read, Tinker. Exiting the vehicle, he unfurled and rose to his majestic height, his short blonde hair spiked, his cheekbones high below aviator sunglasses, and his chin thrust forward. He stood to allow the moment to penetrate his followers before striding to the steps and taking them 2 at a time until he reached the building's landing and turning around once more. "Can I have your attention?" he called. Utter silence.
"Friends, Romans, countrymen,"
Billy whispered to Robo, who shook his head and smirked. "We have a job to do. We will avenge the death of the young woman near the falls. We all know who did it." Tinker paused as the mob muttered to each other. "I don't need to place a wanted poster. The creature will be taken, dead or alive. But most surely he will be taken dead. He's in there, and we'll find him. Take a map, choose a party number, and at dusk we'll begin scouring the hills. We'll begin organizing. Any questions?" Remarkably, there were none. Billy and the team loitered long enough to be forced all the way around the block at the last tent, and even so it was crowded. They got the last map before settling into chairs. The men in their group glanced for only a moment at the directions before leaning back to endure the heat of the day. It took a while before someone recognized them.
"You fellers are from the Bigfoot team,"
remarked a man with a cap with a white duck on the front. He had made his way to Billy and was smiling somewhat, his sallow cheek covered in a thin beard quivering with what might have been a smile. His work-hardened hands played around buttons on his overalls, and a 30-30 was slung over his shoulder. Billy, smelling the man's day-old sweat and alcohol, measured his response.
"We are,"
Billy finally said.
"You going looking for Bigfoot with us?"
The rest of the team had appeared behind Billy, and several other men moved behind Duck Hat. It looked as though a line of scrimmage had formed between them.
"We've been looking for a week," Billy said. "You got that night vision? I seen the show."
"We do have night vision," Billy replied, looking for an exit, but failing.
"We might see him in the dark 'fore he sees us,"
Duck Hat laughed, revealing gaps where his two front teeth had been. Almost subconsciously, he readjusted his rifle. "It's been the plan."
"You got guns, too?"
"We don't have weapons. We don't plan to kill Bigfoot."
"You don't plan to kill Bigfoot," the man uttered. "You know he done killed a girl. What more you want?"
"We don't know that a Bigfoot killed her," Billy began. "It would be highly unlikely that a Bigfoot—"
"Sheriff said so," the man interrupted. "Said the Bigfoot did it. Now you gonna go and take up for that creature? What kind of man are you?"
"You ain't got no business even being out here." At that point, Billy got extremely lucky. A line of what appeared to be park rangers walked by the tent, striding with purpose toward the front of the gathering and toward the sheriff's tent. Without speaking, Billy tugged at Robo, and the rest of the team followed. They didn't hear the initial greeting, but did arrive in time to see the sheriff nose to nose with what turned out to be a game warden.
"Mike, we've known each other for a long time,"
they heard the sheriff say.
"We have every right to comb those woods for clues and to flush that creature out. Sheriff, I can't let you go in there with all these guns. It can't happen. Someone will. Mike, we're going in those woods."
"Don, I'm in charge of the federal lands."
"Listen, we're going to find that Bigfoot. Then we're going to shoot the big subbitch and bring him back here."
Tinker's eyes had narrowed to slits, and his face was steel.
"This is my county, and I aim to keep it safe. It won't be safe with all those guns. We'll have to see about that then, won't we?"
The warden blinked and said nothing. It was all the confirmation Tinker needed.
"Move out in 1 hour,"
Tinker ordered. The group began to disperse.
"Don, okay, I'm asking you. Please don't do this." "You're outnumbered, Warden. 1-0."
Tinker turned and left the men standing as they had arrived. Billy and the team scrambled to get the rest of their gear. It looked like the night would be a long one. All right, everyone. And that is going to do it for our reading this evening. So once again, if you want some more information about Bigfoot Found by Tim D. Smith, scan that QR code on the screen. It'll take you to the author's website. The website is also listed in the description on the Rumble and YouTube videos. It will be on all of the recorded videos as well. If you missed any part of the reading for this evening or any part of the reading so far, you can catch all of it at youtube.com/@SirArminius. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps to support me in what I do for indie authors. And for me, as always, thank you. The greatest gift that you can give me is the gift of your time, and I appreciate that you guys gave me the gift of yours this evening. whether it was for 5 minutes or for the entire reading. Thank you for being here with me. I will be back again on Tuesday, where we will continue Bigfoot Found, starting with Chapter 24. If you've missed any of it up till now, again, stop out to the YouTube channel, listen up. You can get all caught up, or you can go and purchase the book and read up to where I'm at, or heck, even continue on. I won't stop you. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys all again really soon. Have a great night, everybody.